My name is Sophia. At 31, I work part-time at a neighborhood supermarket. Today is the beginning of November. This time of year, things start to get busy as we head towards the year end. Manager, I'd like to discuss some time off over Christmas. Would that be alright? Well, that's unusual. It's not like you to ask for time off. The truth is, we're thinking of spending Christmas at my husband's parents' house this year. I'm afraid I'll need to take the 24th and 25th off. Oh, that's what it's about. Of course, that's fine. You're always working hard, Sophia. Thank you, that's a great help. Isn't your husband's family based quite far away? And you're from around here, right, Sophia? Yes, I'm from the neighboring town, but my husband is from Boston. Boston, huh? That's quite a distance. Yes, it is. Unfortunately, due to circumstances, we haven't been able to introduce Alexander yet. Oh, that's why. Even more reason for you to head back. Don't worry about the store. Go and visit. Thank you. I appreciate your understanding. Alexander is my son, now 2 years old, and attending a childcare center. When I gave birth 2 years ago, a certain societal issue made it difficult to introduce him, and we haven't found the right time. Recently, things have finally started to calm down, and it seemed like a good time. My husband Lucas is a medical technician at a hospital, and it has been difficult for him to take time off, so we were particularly keen to make it happen this Christmas. Do you think you can get time off for Christmas? I think I'll be okay, Sophia. What about you? Yeah, I got the okay from my manager. Lucas returns home after Alexander is asleep. As we share a late dinner, Lucas asks me the question. Today, we had agreed to discuss whether we could both get time off from work. Oh, by the way, I'll call my dad. He tried to reach me while I was on my way home. Whenever there's news, it's always my dad who calls. My mom is a quiet type. She tends to delegate communication tasks to my dad. That's true, now that you mention it. My father-in-law has a cheerful personality and was quite friendly when we first visited to announce our marriage. He's always laughing and engaging in conversation. On the other hand, mother-in-law, as Lucas puts it, is quiet and speaks sparingly. Honestly, since getting married, we've hardly had the chance to converse, and I was hoping this visit to Lucas's home would help close the distance a bit. Hello? Dad? What's up? Ah, got it. I'll talk to Sophia about it later. Lucas hung up the phone and turned to me. Dad, he's really excited to meet Alexander. Can't stop talking about it. What? He said to let him know if there's anything you want or need. I wonder what's going to happen when we get there. But I'm glad they're excited. My parents also said we should go this year. They said we should introduce Alexander. But you love father-in-law and mother-in-law too, don't you? Oof. We're both in the same boat, aren't we? And so, looking forward to our return to Lucas's home, the day finally arrived. Christmas morning. After about a 4-hour drive, we arrived at Lucas's house, just before noon. I knew sister-in-law's family had already arrived because their car was parked there. Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas! We called out as we stepped into the entrance. And there, with a beaming smile, was father-in-law. Good job on the drive! Take it easy today. And in father-in-law's arms was Ava, sister-in-law's daughter. Ah! Merry Christmas! Ava, you've grown so much. I'm 6 years old now. Really? You're in elementary school? Yeah. Oh, there's Alexander. Ava stepped down from father-in-law's embrace and gave a bright smile to Alexander, who I was holding. Alexander returned her smile. How cute! Come on in, come on in! As father-in-law suggested, we entered the house. In the living room were sister-in-laws Isabella and Isabella's husband. Isabella's husband shifted his gaze to us and offered a smile. In contrast, Isabella looked at us with a straight face. Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas! Isabella's husband greeted us. However, there was no response from Isabella for some reason. I felt a bit awkward, but then Lucas, who came to the living room later, greeted them. Henry, Isabella, Merry Christmas. Oh, we haven't seen each other for a while, have we? How've you been? Isabella, who had been staring at us until a moment ago, now flashed us a smile. Did they just ignore me? But it seemed like neither Isabella's husband nor Lucas noticed. Maybe I'm overthinking this, I thought, and acted like nothing was wrong as I sat down in the living room. Lucas, watch Alexander for a bit. I'm going to help mother-in-law in the kitchen. Huh? I'm good, really. No, it's important to help out when you can. I asked Lucas to keep an eye on Alexander and then headed to the kitchen where mother-in-law was. Throughout all of this, Isabella didn't even look my way, but I chose not to let it bother me. I found mother-in-law in the kitchen and said, "Mother-in-law, Merry Christmas! Let me help you." As soon as I said this, mother-in-law glared at me, bumped my shoulder, and said, "You're in the way." What? Mother-in-law then left for the living room. I could hear her say, "Oh, Lucas, Merry Christmas. Have you been well?" What's going on? First sister-in-law, and now mother-in-law. Did I do something wrong? I couldn't think of anything I might have done. Lucas and I have been married for 4 years, and it's been 2 years since Alexander was born. We haven't really spoken, or even communicated much over the phone during this time. What could it be? I don't understand. Maybe I shouldn't let it bother me. We were planning to head home later that day, so I decided I would discuss it with Lucas when we had the time and stopped worrying about it for the moment. When I returned to the living room and took Alexander from Lucas, father-in-law said, "Here you go, Alexander. Monetary gifts for you." Alexander seemed really happy with the envelope father-in-law handed him. "Ah, Sophia, did you hear that? Alexander just said thank you to me. What a smart kid." Father-in-law looked really happy, but what caught my attention was the sight of mother-in-law and sister-in-law grinning as soon as Alexander received the envelope. It wasn't just a simple grin, it seemed rather sarcastic. I instinctively felt they were up to something, but I reassured myself, nothing like this has ever happened before. It must all be in my head. And so, time passed, and in the evening, we headed home. The next day, we went to my parents' house. Since we see them often, Alexander was all smiles when he saw his grandparents. "Merry Christmas! Your grandpa and grandma have presents for you!" Lucas and I were a bit taken aback by how much my parents spoiled Alexander. Just like the day before, my dad handed Alexander monetary gifts. "Ah! Oh, Sophia, did you hear that? Alexander just said thank you to me." "You're kidding. That's exactly what father-in-law said." Everyone laughed, and as I took the monetary gifts from Alexander, I felt something unusual with my hand. Why does it feel so heavy? I had not sensed anything inside the envelope when I received it from my father-in-law the day before. Yet, I couldn't help but wonder at that moment. He wouldn't have put $100 in here, would he? Is that even okay? I decided to chalk it up to my parents' indulgent love for Alexander. Our home is about a 30-minute drive from where we were, so we ate lunch and then headed back. After giving Alexander a bath and putting him to bed, I decided to check the monetary gifts. Oh, it is indeed $100. Just like last year, huh? I kind of feel guilty. Huh. Well, we'll have to give something back in return, won't we? Just like last year, my parents didn't hold back. Given I'm an only child and Alexander is their first grandchild, I understand their affection. Nevertheless, I was a little flabbergasted. Yet, I also felt grateful, so I jotted down the amount of money received. But my dad seemed quite eager too. Huh. He was totally in sync with my father-in-law. This year will be interesting. Last year, since we couldn't meet, they had sent us a gift card. Yes, and the amount on the card was $100. They were thrilled to have a grandson, weren't they? Remembering my father-in-law holding Alexander and talking happily the day before, I continued the conversation and opened the envelope. That's when the unexpected happened. Wait, what? A leaf? There was a single green leaf inside the envelope. I was at a loss for words. Then, Lucas, startled by my reaction, exclaimed, "What? A leaf? What on earth is this?" Ha! He started to laugh uproariously, but what came to mind at that moment was the behavior of my mother-in-law and Isabella. No way, I thought. Anyway, I'll call them. They'll surely be concerned about this too. Lucas seemed to think it was all a prank, and while laughing, he tried to call my father-in-law, but there was no answer. "Oh, they might be in the shower. Let me try calling Mom." Lucas then called his mother. It seemed she answered, and he told her about the leaf. From her surprised reaction, it was clear she was explaining something to Lucas. "Oh, so that's what it was. Ha. All right, I'll let Sophia know." "What? You want to talk to Sophia?" "Me?" "Hold on a sec." Lucas pulled the phone away from his ear and said, "Mom sounds super apologetic. She says she wants to apologize to you, Sophia. Is that okay?" Huh? Sure. While his words were surprising, I reluctantly took the phone from Lucas and picked up the call. Hello? And just like that, mother-in-law went completely silent. Then I heard a faint, familiar laugh in the background that sounded like Isabella. Hello, mother-in-law! Like I would ever apologize to the likes of you, you poverty-stricken wife. Excuse me? Your children are as poor as a leaf. Ha! See ya, paper wife! With those unbelievable words thrown at me, she hung up. At that moment, I realized all the events of yesterday were an act of spite. What's wrong, Sophia? You seem off. But how could I ever convince Lucas of what just transpired? First, I needed to find out what mother-in-law told Lucas. Hey, what did mother-in-law say to you? Well, it seems like Dad accidentally gave out the gifts that Ava had prepared. Remember how Isabella and her family came over for Christmas first? Dad had prepared some monetary gifts then. Ava said she wanted to help too. Somehow, in the process, she decided to include a leaf from the garden as a bonus. She might have swapped it with the money. I see. What's up, Sophia? You seem off. I was at a loss for words, being suddenly labeled as a poverty-stricken wife. I've never been through something like this before, and I couldn't find the right words to explain what happened. Actually, But just at that moment, a call came in from father-in-law. Oh, sorry, Dad. Maybe he's calling back, Lucas said, putting the phone on the table, switching it to speaker. The phone rustled. Huh? Dad? Did you call by mistake? Huh? Lucas? Oh, it says Lucas! On the phone! Huh? Ava, is that you? Yeah, you got it. It turns out Ava was the one who called back, using father-in-law's phone. You're going to get in trouble with Grandpa, Ava. That's fine. I wanted to talk. Grandpa's in the shower. It's all good. Plus, Grandpa always says we should answer the phone when it rings. So I'm talking for him. While it's nice that Ava is happy to talk on the phone, this isn't the right time. Perhaps sensing my mood, Lucas said, Sorry, Ava. We're in the middle of an important conversation. Oh, really? Well, that's a bummer. Bye, Lucas. And bye, poor auntie. Wait, Ava! Huh? What's up? What did you say at the end? Both Lucas and I didn't miss what Ava had said at the end. It sounded like she said, poor wife. Because Mommy's grandma also calls Auntie poor wife. She just said it earlier too. Right now, Mom and Grandma are chatting over coffee. Ava, could you explain to Lucas what you mean by earlier? Earlier? When Grandma was on the phone? Yes. So here's the thing. Broke wife once mentioned this to me. It's all about the leaf. Mom used to prepare the leaf with a smile and taught me all about it. She said that for the less fortunate, monetary gifts come down to a single leaf. What? Lucas looked at me with a baffled expression. All I could do was stay silent. That's when my sister-in-law, who had noticed Ava's phone call, shouted, Ava! However, at that same moment, my father-in-law said, We'll talk about it later. Feeling confused about what was happening, I saw the phone being handed over from Ava to my father-in-law. Sorry about that, I was taking a shower. Then, when I got dressed and came out, I found Ava saying something outrageous. So, you heard it too, Dad. I'm sorry, Lucas. Could you hand the phone to Sophia? No worries, Dad. We're on speaker. Sophia's listening too. Alright, Sophia, was what Ava just said true? And those bizarre words were targeted at you, right? Yes, that's right. My father-in-law stammered over his words. Behind him, I could hear my mother-in-law and sister-in-law speaking rapidly and agitatedly, as if trying to make excuses. My father-in-law sighed deeply. I am truly sorry. Please don't blame Ava. She didn't mean any harm. No, it's alright. We don't mind at all. Ava's not at fault here. Thank you. I'll follow up on this matter. Isabella's here too. We'll confirm things with her. With that, he ended the call. Lucas then looked at me, apologizing. I'm really sorry. I have no idea what's going on. He was utterly confused. I told him about all the discomfort I felt during my visits to Lucas's house. We decided to wait for a response from my father-in-law. Surprisingly, we received a reply sooner than we expected. And amazingly, the very next day, Isabella's husband drove father-in-law, mother-in-law, and Isabella to our house. Upon entering, they stood before a sullen mother-in-law and sister-in-law, and father-in-law, along with Isabella's husband, apologizing profusely. "We've done something truly disrespectful. We're sorry. We apologize for the outrageous behavior of my wife." The deep apology was appreciated, but the two of them didn't utter a single word. After being married for 4 years, I couldn't fathom the reason behind their animosity, even though we rarely met. May I ask, why did you suddenly act this way towards me?" I thought if I understood the reason, I could address it. There might be some misunderstanding, I thought, but there was no response to my question. The two of them were intent on ignoring me. Father-in-law, enraged by their attitude, shouted, "Answer her!" Finally, Isabella grudgingly responded, but her answer was unexpected. "Well, Mom was originally against the marriage." "Wait, that's it? And why? Why did you let him marry a woman like this? A woman who doesn't even wear a single brand name item, who dresses in mass-produced, cheap clothes." Indeed, I'm not interested in branded items. On the other hand, Isabella is the type who likes branded goods, and my mother-in-law also owns and wears a few brand-named items. "Are you saying? Don't tell me that's the only reason you insulted her." "Huh? That's all it is. I just don't want her in our family. I wish they would divorce soon and she would just disappear, you know?" "You! How could you say something so rude?" "And what about you? Why are you supporting such a woman? You're a top-tier company employee, an elite. You should choose someone suitable for our family, right? Despite Lucas being a well-qualified medical professional, we can't accept such a woman as a family member, can we?" Upon hearing Isabella's true feelings, her husband was speechless. However, it would soon be proven by the next words of my mother-in-law that this attitude was inherited from her. Originally, you see, I had found a suitable partner for Lucas. Despite that, he brought home some unknown woman and declared they were getting married. It was a true shock. "What? You were doing such a thing without telling us? There are limits to what's acceptable to do to Sophia." It's fine, isn't it? She's just a poor girl, isn't she? Her parents didn't seem very impressive either. Quite impoverished, don't you think? She wasn't wearing a single branded item. In other words, she's from a struggling household that finds it hard to make ends meet, right? What? What are you saying? Besides, to love a child born of such a woman? Impossible. It would taint our precious Ava. We had plans for her to marry a friend's child. Upon hearing his mother's true feelings, Lucas was speechless. I felt the same way, wondering how I could have missed all this. If I consider that my father-in-law called not out of interest but disinterest, everything makes sense as harassment. "Well, it's fine if you divorce. Please, do it as soon as possible. Let's go. We don't need to get involved in this farce." Just as my father-in-law was about to say something, I was ready to clear up a misunderstanding, for the sake of my pride. The ones who dramatically opened the living room door were my parents. "It's been a while. Father-in-law, mother-in-law, did Sophia call you?" "Yep, it must be hard to be talked about like that without saying anything, right?" When I heard that my father-in-law was coming over, I had contacted my parents. It seems they had heard some of the mother-in-law's terrible comments from outside the door. Their timing was perfect. My parents approached mother-in-law with serious faces. "What is it?" Then, my parents took out business cards from their breast pockets and said, "Here you go." Amazingly, they dropped their business cards at mother-in-law's feet, their attitude seeming to say, "Pick it up." I had to try hard to suppress my laughter. The one who rose to their bait was Isabella, picking up the business card and shouting, "Such arrogance from a poor person! You didn't even wear any branded items today, and your clothes look mass-produced." As soon as she looked at the card. Mom?" Startled, mother-in-law also looked at the business card Isabella held. You two are executives of Walla Clo." "Yes, my husband and I started out together. He's an executive at the headquarters, I'm the head of planning. Our daughter quit when she got married. You know that, right?" Both of my parents are currently working at the headquarters of Walla Clo, a famous low-cost apparel brand. I also, after graduating from college. While I had spoken to my father-in-law and mother-in-law about myself at the time of our marriage, my parents had never explained their situation. So, she could go back to work anytime she wanted, right? What? That's Amazing! You work at that famous fashion brand's major corporation. So, what do you mean we're poor? That my grandchild is the grandchild of a poor wife? Because you oppose the marriage, it's okay to harass us? That's not... We're really sorry. But that apology was only because my parents held executive jobs. Needless to say, it was beyond the point of being resolved by just an apology. Henry looked disappointed as he said, I thought it was a good thing to leave Ava with my parents. But you... I stuttered. I'll drive you home, but after that, we'll live separately. What? What are you talking about? I'm glad I got to see your true face. Let's discuss our divorce when we get home. Henry then left the house. At that moment, my father-in-law also stood up, bowed deeply to my parents, saying, I'm really sorry for what happened. He then turned to us. I'm really sorry. I'll be in touch. Looking sternly at my pale-faced mother-in-law, he said, Be prepared when you get home. Before he too exited our house, my mother-in-law and Isabella hurriedly grabbed their belongings and rushed out of our home. I caught my breath at home after my parents kindly offered to pick up Alexander from the childcare center. Later, I received a call from my father-in-law. He told me that my mother-in-law had been forcibly sent back to her parents' house. It's a de facto separation. Apparently, they made this decision because they were unsure what she might do to Alexander. But it's a separation with a premise of divorce, and it seems they are waiting for the right timing. As for Isabella, the divorce was finalized immediately after she returned home. Henry obtained custody of Ava. Isabella, of course, has taken refuge in my mother-in-law's house, but she seems to be getting a good scolding from my mother-in-law's mother, who knows the truth, and is currently on a job hunt. We continue to live our busy daily lives. It feels really good to not only see our child grow up as parents, but also to share this joy with his grandparents.
My name is Emily, 38 years old. Though I'm nearly 40, I've recently become obsessed with Snoopy. I'm totally submerged in this obsession. At this age, getting hooked on a character, it's embarrassing, but so soothing. And now, I can't take my eyes off the newly released merchandise. Today I wanted to tell you about the days when I didn't have this source of comfort. Let's go back about 10 years. At that time, I had just celebrated my second wedding anniversary with my husband Jason, a year older than me. Newlyweds, right? In the midst of happiness? No, don't underestimate the struggles of being a wife. Before getting married, I thought, from now on, I'll overcome anything with my husband, just like a hero setting out on an adventure in a comic book. Our household was plagued by the formidable duo of my foolish husband and his equally foolish mother, Megan. I found myself having to overcome everything alone. My husband was raised in a single-parent home by his mother, Megan, and his brother, my brother-in-law, Alex. Alex is shy. Even during our marriage introduction, he'd barely greet me and quickly retreat to his room, avoiding prolonged contact. But after a year of marriage, through our occasional meetings, Alex gradually started to open up, albeit very slowly. Or rather, I have a knack for getting along with shy people. My best friend is shy. So is my childhood friend. I know the trick to befriending shy people. Don't be too forward or talk too much. Respect their space. Don't try to close the distance too quickly. Let them come to you. And when you talk, don't push too hard. A gentle, herbivore-like approach lets them gradually come closer. Of course, this doesn't work with everyone, but it's been effective for me, mostly without even trying. It just happens naturally. That's how I got to a point where Alex would call me Emily. But Megan didn't like this. She always thought of Alex as shy, only able to open up to her. Not won't open up, but can't open up. She looked down on him. Yet, to me, it didn't seem like Alex was particularly open with Megan. Maybe that's why Alex spoke to my husband but hardly to Megan, quickly leaving the living room. But I didn't want to stir things up in what seemed like a peaceful household. I kept quiet. I thought I shouldn't shatter Megan's pride, but when Alex started opening up to me, my covert efforts backfired. "Wow, Emily, he's smiling at you. Did you use some kind of charm on him?" I remember Megan's words, followed by a hollow laugh, her eyes devoid of humor. This was no joking matter. Why should I be criticized for having a friendly conversation with a family member? I tried to let it go, but Megan's attitude gradually changed. Then came Megan's birthday. I visited my in-laws, bringing a cake and some fancy body cream as gifts. I thought beauty products would be perfect for beauty-conscious Megan. But her first reaction was, "Cake for an old woman? It'll upset my stomach. Nice to be treated young, though," she said with a joyless face. This wasn't an elderly joke. It was a clear snub. "Body cream? Oh, do I look that dried up? Well, I am old. Do I really look that parched to you?" Again, no real laughter in her eyes, just a predatory glare. I was speechless, unsure if I should smile back or retort, but maybe a joke would work. Option 1. "You're not dry at all. Wherever you go, it's like a flood. I might drown." Option 2. "Oops, my bad, Megan. Maybe it's too early for you. I'll just save it for your embalming. Can I have it back now?" As I hesitated, Megan's verbal onslaught continued. "Emily, your clothes are too flashy. You're too old for skirts now that you're married. Just wear gray pants or something. Why aren't the contents of your bag divided into pouches? Can't you organize? Your shoes are worn out. Walking around like that is embarrassing for Jason." After being nagged like this, my desire to celebrate her birthday vanished completely, and I returned home feeling deflated. But that wasn't all. Megan started calling our house. Until then, she had favored Alex, whom she condescendingly deemed shy, and showed little interest in my husband. We'd never received such calls before. Yet, ever since Megan noticed how well Alex and I got along, she started calling our house incessantly. Most of what she said was trivial. "You should be the one calling to check on me," she'd say. "Come over on weekends, help with household chores, support your mother-in-law's life. Are you respecting your husband properly? You're so assertive. I doubt you can do that." In Megan's eyes, I somehow became the villain who stole both her sons. She frequently made hostile remarks towards me. Her daughter-in-law, under the guise of concern for her sons. I wish I could block her calls, but she's still my mother-in-law. I don't have the courage to do that, so I just endure. But it wasn't just the phone calls I had to endure. She started coming to our house, always when my husband wasn't there. Every visit she'd snoop around the house, critiquing everything. "No sense in how things are arranged." Or watching me make coffee, "Inefficient at housework." I didn't take her constant nagging insults seriously, but it was still hard to bear. For Megan, harassing me seemed to become a hobby, always with a smile while she hurled her sarcasms. "Glad you found a hobby, Megan," I even thought of sarcastically saying. The smile I never saw when I gave her gifts or expressed gratitude was always there when she insulted me. I couldn't find a single likable thing about her anymore. As these days continued, I knew something had to change, so I talked to my husband about Megan. His response? "Mom's just lonely since I got married, and Alex doesn't spend much time with her. It's sad, right? Do your best to handle it, as her daughter-in-law." If I could handle it well, I wouldn't be asking for advice. And Megan doesn't see me as a daughter-in-law, but an intruding woman. Women can sense these things. Realizing my husband didn't grasp the point or our relationship, I felt a chilling detachment and disillusionment. Thanksgiving that year. It happened when I went back to my in-laws' house. Megan greeted me with a smile. "Oh, Emily, I've been waiting for you. There's something I need you to do." Her smile sent chills down my spine. My husband left me with his naive smile, thinking, "Great, my wife and Megan are getting along." He had no idea how wrong he was. His obliviousness wasn't excusable. I felt my heart filling with something it shouldn't. "Emily, can you write these Christmas cards? There are about 400, but you're young. It should be fine." Huh? Whether youth changes anything about writing Christmas cards, I was dumbfounded. "In our family, writing Christmas cards is the wife's duty. I'm sure it's the same in every household. I didn't let you do it before, but now that you're a part of the family, consider it your duty. Work hard." Imposing duties on a wife seemed off, and not every household has such a tradition. "Of course you'll work on Thanksgiving too. As the lowest in our family hierarchy, you're meant to serve us." Megan smiled slyly, pleased with herself. I swallowed my frustration and responded, "Sure, I'll do my best." The idea of being a part of the family felt disturbing. I had plenty of complaints, but this was an opportunity. I'll do this wife's duty as she wants. Oh yes. My clueless husband, unaware of my resolve, watched the scene with a content smile. He didn't realize the harassment I was undergoing. I didn't care anymore. I immediately started on my special Christmas card plan. If only the card writing went smoothly, but Megan constantly interrupted. "Prepare the hors d'oeuvres. Clean up the dishes. Go buy toilet paper." It was so annoying. My husband even seemed happy that I became someone Megan could order around just like a real daughter. I realized that the Christmas cake in front of me had much more substance than my husband's brain, and my heart grew colder. I should have married a Christmas cake. Seeing my husband's face, oblivious to the typical mother-in-law and daughter-in-law drama like in a TV show, filled me with disgust. I thought I was alone, but Alex was the one to say, "Hasn't Emily been working too hard?" trying to defend me. However, his intervention only fueled Megan's anger more. After all, it was because of Alex that she started disliking me. "Oh my! You really do like Emily, don't you, Alex? How indecent of her!" Alex, not understanding why I was called indecent, replied with a puzzled look. What? What are you talking about?" But I knew what Megan meant. She was insinuating that I was a temptress, something I never did, which is why Alex and I were both confused. Megan had already reached her conclusion in her imagination and was beyond reasoning. "Thanks, Alex, but I'm fine," I said, continuing to fulfill Megan's tasks. "Thank you truly, Alex." In the midst of Megan and my husband not being on my side, you were the only one who saw the truth. You are not someone to be looked down upon. As I secretly thought this, I completed all the Christmas tasks Megan threw at me. I was supposed to stay at my in-laws until the new year, but trouble started immediately. It happened one morning when I was sleeping in because of Thanksgiving. Megan burst into our bedroom, flung open the door, and yelled, "What have you done, Emily?" Both my husband and I woke up groggily and replied, "Yes?" "What have you done? I've been getting non-stop calls from relatives and Jason's work colleagues." Still half asleep, I searched my memory. "Ah, yes, that's right." Realizing what happened, I casually replied with a smile, "Oh, that's terrible." My husband asked, "What happened?" "Apparently, Emily did something with the Christmas cards and we're getting a lot of complaints," Megan said. Well, yes, that makes sense. My little trick with the Christmas cards was a huge success. For someone skilled with computers, handling a few hundred Christmas cards was a breeze. Megan intended for me to handwrite them, but I borrowed a printer and a computer from Alex and finished the task easily. I added a message at the end of each card. Joining the trend, I've started a social media account. It includes daily life and things with my husband. Feel free to come and comment, along with a QR code. Since this morning, relatives have been telling me to take care of my wife. I've been getting nothing but lectures and it's awful. What did you do? Megan raged. I responded, I just shared videos and recordings of my daily life on social media, accessible through the QR code. Mainly, I posted the things Megan kept saying to me, especially around Thanksgiving. As I said this nonchalantly with a smile, Megan's face turned red with anger. That's an invasion of privacy. I'm just sharing a part of my life. Is there a problem with that? The phone rang again as we spoke. Oh, enough! Why do I have to be blamed? Telling me to take care of the wife, not to project elderly egos on others. I've had enough! But Megan, you used to tell me every day to live for my husband, to work for his family. You're just experiencing what you've been doing to me. I said with a sarcastic smile. You're such an ungrateful wife. What will become of you? What indeed? I replied, not backing down. Watching me stand firm, my husband began to panic. Alternating glances between Megan and me, he seemed to finally realize the gravity of the situation, just as planned. Megan still uses an old cell phone with a basic camera and small screen. I took advantage of that. Her old phone couldn't read QR codes. I even prepared a fake social media account just in case. With such thorough planning, I was sure to be safe. Retaliation on the internet was something Megan never expected. I was careful with the comments on the Christmas cards. The main goal was to get people to access the site. The simple invitation, "Come and comment," was a great success. The first page started with Megan scolding and continued with the worst footage of the harassment I endured. All the patience and enduring of constant criticism paid off. Just getting people to access the site was enough to spark curiosity. I put video data instead of audio recordings on the first page, so it would catch attention immediately. Everything went according to plan. Actually, the response was even bigger than I expected. It was a pleasant surprise that my strategy not only elicited comments, but also caused the phone to ring off the hook. I think I deserve a pat on the back for this success. While I was smugly smiling to myself, my husband's phone rang. Hello? Oh, George! Happy holidays! What? After a while, my husband repeatedly apologized on the phone, bowing his head. I wondered what was happening. Megan looked curious, and I had an idea. After hanging up, my husband sighed. I got scolded by my boss. He said, as my wife's husband, why am I not seeing that she's being harassed and not protecting her? My husband and I used to work at the same company before we got married. I quit when we married, but I had worked under George, the person on the phone, who was very fond of me. I had been working with him ever since George was one rank below me, and I was his much-loved subordinate. When we got married, George jokingly warned my husband, saying, I've nurtured her as my subordinate, so take good care of her. Of course, it was half in jest. But George really did care about me. I can imagine that the call must have been quite intimidating for my husband. He looked so relieved after the call, as if he'd forgotten how to breathe. I didn't expect George's assistance, but everything worked out perfectly. What a great turn of events, I thought. Mom, I haven't seen the video yet, but do you dislike Emily? My husband asked. I replied, It's not about whether you've seen the video or not. I've tried to talk to you about it, but you never listened. My husband, surprised, said, Huh? Meanwhile, the phone kept ringing. Megan didn't even try to answer it, probably knowing the content of the calls. I've been ignored when I tried to discuss things and the harassment only got worse. That's why I put the issue in a video and included it in the Christmas cards. When Megan asked me to handle the Christmas cards, it was a timely offer. I said sarcastically, "Well, my dear husband seemed fine with his wife being overworked at her parents' house during Thanksgiving." My husband looked down awkwardly. Deep down, you must have thought it was normal for your wife to work, not your parents or yourself. That's why you could ask me for another beer without a second thought, even when I was busy. As I said this, my husband felt silent. Megan tried to continue. "But she's a wife, isn't that okay? When I was young..." "Young what? Do you think it's okay to make your wife suffer just because you did? Are you seriously saying that? Is that the lesson of this house? To return the unpleasantness to others?" Megan trembled as I spoke. She must have found it infuriating to be challenged. "I'm sick of this house, listening to the nagging of in-laws every day, and my husband doesn't help. I can't stand it anymore." I blurted out my true feelings. My husband started to panic, realizing what I might say. But Megan, still not understanding that the power dynamics had shifted, yelled, "If you complain, I'll divorce you." Great, I have no more feelings for my husband. Let's get divorced right away. Huh? Megan and my husband looked at me in astonishment. They didn't seem to understand, so I declared again, "Let's separate. I want a divorce." No, wait, Emily. We can just distance ourselves from Mom. We're not in conflict. Are you abandoning me, Jason? Mom, Alex is there for you. In the middle of the parent-child argument, Alex cut in. "I don't like Mom either." It was a disastrous family quarrel. "Mom's like this, that's why Dad cheated on her," someone exclaimed. We ended up bringing up past issues I didn't even know about. "I did everything thinking of you guys." Megan tried to defend herself. "You always look down on us," Alex retorted. So he felt that way too. Gradually, Megan was losing ground. Everyone spoke their mind, reaching a point where I wondered if things could ever be mended. That's when I said, "Well, that's the end of it. I'll write and send the divorce papers later. Please take care of them." "What? Emily, wait!" My husband tried to grab my hand as I was leaving, but I shook it off fiercely. He was no longer my husband to me. The only consolation was Alex saying, "Emily, take care." I guess the only family-like affection I received was from Alex, not my husband. "Thank you," I whispered in my heart as I left my in-laws' house. Afterward, my husband hesitated for a while, making various excuses and repeating, "It's not like I cheated." But he eventually agreed to the divorce. Telling him, living with an insensitive husband who can't be on my side is torture, seemed to have an impact. Now, I haven't been in contact with my ex-husband, but I've been reading the one-sided updates he sends. He lost credibility at work, being seen as unreliable and untrustworthy by George and our mutual colleagues. He's been overtaken by his juniors, not demoted, but certainly at a very low career point for his age. Moreover, the relationship between my ex-husband and Megan deteriorated further after our relationship soured and his work failed. He started blaming everything on Megan, using her as a scapegoat for his stress. I think, you're partly to blame, but if he understood that, he wouldn't have divorced. Now Megan, who harassed me, faces daily blame from her own son. I wonder how she feels. Being a real son, he can't just divorce her as I did. Let her suffer until she understands my pain, I thought. It might seem twisted, but can I say it? Honestly, I feel so liberated now. Arguing in a family just shows a lack of mutual understanding and consideration. If people truly looked out for each other's feelings every day, such conflicts wouldn't arise. This happens because everyone's just thinking about themselves. Serves you right. Alex, it seems, couldn't stand the situation and left the family home. He even found a partner and is getting married, avoiding much contact with his parents. That's the right move. Anyone sane would stay away from that house. I believe, as someone who experienced it. As for me, I got a job at an advertising company after the divorce. Initially, my divorce and re-employment were a talking point. But I've done well and am now a section manager, possibly moving up to a department head. I'm enjoying my work so much that I haven't remarried, but I find this life fulfilling. I can spend my days just as I like. With a decent salary, I've taken up solo traveling as a hobby. My fondness for Snoopy began when I stumbled upon some limited edition merchandise on a trip. Sometimes I travel with colleagues too. Being single, I'm living a meaningful life. Single isn't just okay. It's great. That's how I feel now.